let me ask you to trace back first your connection to FVR. Where did all that start?
So I go back to the campaign.
His campaign.
His campaign. I wasn't part of the campaign team because I was working in government already at the time. Di ba, bawal to campaign.
Mhm, mhm.
But since I was on special assignment to RTVM,
Mm.
I was able to cover some of the out-of-town trips where
Mhm,
there
mhm.
was a campaign. So that was my first exposure to FVR, the candidate.
The candidate.
Pero prior to that kasi during the Cory period,
Mhm.
if you will remember, he was a secretary.
Mm.
He was a cabinet officer for regional development at that time.
Mhm.
During Cory's time, meron
Mhm.
nun yung cabinet secretaries would be assigned to specific regions.
Yes. Mhm.
So actually, that was my first exposure to him, but as a
To
cabinet
him.
secretary.
Okay. Sige.
So
First impressions.
I thought when he was still a cabinet secretary, sabi ko, he was one of the more organized cabinet secretaries.
Talaga. OC.
To that point, oo. Parang mas alam pa niya ang gagawin kesa dun sa cabinet secretariat. Yung parang, I want the highlights of the meeting. The portion discussed. Yes, sir. Tapos na po, but I cannot release it yet because it's still being reviewed by my boss. No, I just want the highlights. Uh, yes, sir. I will release po pag in-approve na ng boss namin. Tapos parang hindi niya mag-gets yun. Bakit hindi kami pwede mag-release ng highlights? Iisang gobyerno lang daw kami.
Mhm.
But he was pleasant, you know.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that was FVR, the cabinet
Secretary.
secretary.
But he was, I suppose, at the time.
Um,
So
ano
he
siya?
always wanted. I guess he wanted to be informed always.
Yes. And he was one of those na pag sinabi mong 10 o'clock yung meeting, he would be there ahead.
Well,
Prepared. With his own notes. So,
did his
inggit ako nun kasi ang hawak kong cluster was economic development. Eh sila yung sa security and ano. So, hindi ko hawak yung cluster
Mhm.
na yon.
Mhm.
But people would always tell me, those in charge of that cabinet cluster, na he was more of the, yung he came to meetings prepared. Pag sinabi niyang, ito yung agenda items ko, you can be sure that all of the documents would be ready. Unlike ako, dahil economic cluster, naghahabol ako sa secretaries ko ng agenda niyo po. So sila, they never had that problem.
Uh-huh. And eventually, you got
so,
posted. You
so
worked with him
from-
through the campaign.
Yes, because by that time, tinanggal naman ako from the cabinet meetings kasi wala na masyadong cabinet meetings. I was assigned to the Office for Special Concerns ng CAPSEC. And then, detailed to RTVM.
RTVM. And
So,
then, but that was because President Cory set aside a lot of her time as well, di ba?
yeah, it was
Campaigning
incorporated.
for.
So, the reason also was most of the campaign would jive with the actual campaign. There would be official events, but it would, syempre, one of the activities was you would pass by the campaign. So we would be exposed to the activities for the campaign because you had to integrate that into the schedule of the president. Although you're not organizing it, let me make it clear. Hindi. But you just had to integrate it into the president's schedule.
You tie the
Oo.
stop in the campaign
Yes.
along with the governance.
Oo, kasi you also have to make sure that the cabinet secretaries will be taken care of while the president is attending the campaign, di ba? Because the ban extends to cabinet secretaries. So, after the governance activities nga, you and the cabinet secretaries, you tend to peel away from the campaign activities. So, gagawa ka naman ng separate itinerary or you bring them to a separate place. So, that was our job.
Okay.
Pero we would, of course, be exposed to the campaign activities.
So, was that story you were telling me earlier, when he was asking for the highlights of the meeting, was that the first meeting?
Actually, that wasn't
First
even,
face to face.
no, kasi in the cabinet secretariat, may rotation kami in taking
Okay.
care of attending cabinet meetings, cabinet cluster meetings, cabinet assistant system meetings. So, madalas makikita mo siya. Kasi nga, the FVR was always prompt, he would always be there. And you know he's there kasi makikita mo na yung edecamp niya, patakbo-takbo na, ma'am, pwede makisirox ng ganito, pwede yun. So, alam mo, andyan na si FVR.
Looking at those times, cabinet secretary siya, did it ever cross your mind that he would eventually become president?
As early as then, parang hindi ko kasi inisip na he would run for the presidency.
Okay.
So ako, I was surprised because, why? Because we all thought it was Mitra who would be the administration candidate, diba?
Oo.
So it was really a surprise to us na, it's FVR.
Oo, no? Cory.
And even during the campaign, minsan kasi si FVR, sabi nila pag campaign, masyado siyang serious.
Stiff.
Stiff, yun, that's the right word. He was medyo stiff. So, parang feeling ko, wala pa siyang ganong charisma. Parang si Cory nga, hindi na nga siya. The only reason she could reach out was people were the ones reaching out to her, diba? Parang inisip ko, pagdating ni FVR, wala siyang masyadong charisma.
That was a bigger barrier.
Oo, parang feeling ko, wala siyang charisma. And this is not somebody na, unlike Cory, who's, everybody wanted to help her, to be on her side, kasi may helpless look siya. Si FVR naman, di naman helpless, di ba? Yun lang yung thought ko, parang hindi ako sure.
But at the same time, I guess, the aura of Ed's a hero.
But you have to remember na, yeah,
And defender of the Cory administration.
to a certain extent, yes. Pero yun nga parang i-weigh mo kasi yun tsaka yung personality niya noon at the start. Hindi naman siya kagad, di ba, nagkaroon ng charisma. That was developed.
Oh, when did you see that?
I saw that.
Did you see that during the campaign?
Not that much. During the campaign, I always thought that he was too formal and stiff. And sometimes yung meron siya nun, even at that time, meron siyang kunyaring, I will not read from my script. I felt na medyo dry yung delivery pa niya nun. Yun, so, it didn't come automatically to him to be charming or charismatic. Or,
Still the military
at that time.
stiffness and all. But he won.
Oh, yes.
Diba?
Oh, yes. And I remember at the beginning of his administration, there was always this message na we did not win by a majority.
Yeah.
So, we have to win the majority now. And he said that was why the presidential visits and the other engagements were critical. Kasi that was his way. If he didn't win by a majority, he would win the majority. So, yun yung nag-stick sa mind ko. Okay. So, ito hindi ito kapareho nung kay Cory na go in, go out. Yung ganon. There's a set of activities, stick to that activity, stick to that schedule. Wala tayong flexibility. You prepare 2 months in advance. Kasi alam mo naman na may crowd that will gather to see Cory, di ba ganyan? Kay FVR, naisip ko, this is not just about the program. Because he always made it clear na it had to have a purpose. This is not cosmetics. Like, I want to know what's going what's happening sa pinakamababang level.
Yeah.
We are there to help people, to reach out to people. We're not there just to say, hi, hello, may president. Hindi ganon eh. Yung approach was, I'm here to do something,
Okay.
to be of help. So parang sabi ko, gagamit ka talaga nito. Hindi lang to yung PR ka lang, make a nice program, make sure happy yung mga tao, ganon. Ito hindi. Yung talagang concrete results.
Okay.
Yun. So,
And there was a goal.
there was a goal because he always
Win the
said na
majority.
it's not just about inaugurating projects. I am even willing to go to problematic projects. It was, to us, surprising Kasi di ba most presidents want to go and inaugurate, cut the ribbon, yung ganon. Si FVR hindi. He wanted, let's go to problematic projects, push those projects, especially if these are critical projects that would benefit the residents of that area. So yeah, I want you to go out there, look for areas. I will tell you the general plan, but you have to be the ones to find out ano yung issues. Yeah, ayoko nung before kasi parang when you submit a program, it's just a program.
Okay.
Sa time ni FVR, you submit a program and you also give a short list of all of the regional issues. We call that aid memoir of,
Yes.
of issues. So you identify an issue, you identify who are the parties involved, and when we say parties involved, ano ba yan? National agency ba yan? Local government unit ba yan? Ano yung policies that could help? Can that be resolved at the regional level? At the national level ba? Ganyan.
Yeah.
And then you have to attach action documents.
Okay.
As early as that,
Wow.
even before the visit.
Okay.
So meron ka ng complete backgrounder. So when he goes there, parang he's familiar with all of the issues. He knows ano yung una niyang i-address in his speech. Yung ganun. So, in that sense, we were really challenged, yung team namin.
But that was, I guess that was the military man in him.
Yeah, na you have a feel of the area already, no?
The military man, the intelligence man.
Yes.
I'm not coming in there cold.
Yeah, and ano siya he wouldn't travel, if he knew that there was an issue, he would want the cabinet secretary involved to be there
Action kagad.
para action kagad.
Wow. So when did you get this assignment? I mean, so he won the election.
He won the election.
You were
I
on
was-
assignment, seconded to...
So immediately, kasi after it was determined that the results were out already. So I was recalled back to the Office for Special Concerns. Yung next assignment naman of the Special Concerns was to coordinate. Kasi you have to remember, di ba, parang for the longest time, we had no inauguration of a new president. So at that time, yung cabinet secretary was coming up with research on ano ba yung inaugural
Transition,
program, what are the transition activities, blah, blah, blah. So, yun naman yung naging focus namin. Preparation for the transition and the inauguration.
Who did you work with from the FVR team?
I remember at the time, hindi kasi at that time, dun sa inaugural, it was still Maria Montelibano or in Malacanang.
Yes.
And of course, Chito Sobrepeña because he was, by that time kasi Ping De Jesus was no longer the cabinet secretary, so it was Chito Sobrepeña, Maria, and the team of FVR.
FVR. And how did you get into the FVR administration?
So I stayed with the office
Career
for...
service ka, I suppose. Okay, so you were staying on regardless of who the administration was.
At saka kasi naman, di ba, when you're in OP, you're told from day one that you should be loyal to the institution, not the person.
Correct.
So, kami, basta, okay, we have to work for the transition. And I remember, we were surprised because we were told to prepare a red book and a blue book. So, ano yun? What's a red book? What's a blue book? oh, okay, the red book, you compile all of those who are appointees, the positions.
Mm-hmm.
And the blue book are the career officials.
Mm-hmm.
I do not miss out anything. Red book and blue book, okay, let's do that.
Appointees and then career. So appointees, ito lahat yung kanya. Dadalhin niya into...
Yes,
Okay.
meaning these are the positions that could, and you have to identify is that currently occupied. Ganon. So these are the career naman. You have to medyo identify the people, tapos what the
So that made you
requirements.
part of the selection
No,
team as
that
well.
was one of the documents that we had to hand over to FVR's transition.
Oh, okay.
Plus the program of activities. I don't know how they agreed upon the inaugural program. I just know we were assigned to research what are the general activities from the time of Makapagal pa yata yun.
Yes.
So, and then give the options kung what are the activities.
Okay. Okay. And
So,
when
and
he
then,
came in,
when he came in, that was the time I was still with the Office for Special Concerns, and OSC kasi was the unit since Cory's time nga that was handling presidential engagements, presidential visits.
oh, okay.
Um,
But that's exactly what you did for him.
before him, yes.
Okay.
So, I found myself, before kasi during Cory time, I had my bosses pa. I had Chito Sobrepeña, I had the director. So parang, okay, safe and ano. Tapos biglang, CABSEC was merged with PMS.
Right.
But, since OSC continued, parang continuous, parang wala namang break in the coordination. So, we were still handling schedules.
Mm-hmm.
So that was when I suddenly received a call. I think it was about a month or more under his term, where we were told to report to PMS already and to leave the admin building.
Okay.
I said, wait a minute, kasi we were preparing for a visit of an activity of the president. So I had to tell, we call them TOP, TOP, na, we have to move out, so
The Office of the President.
the office of the the office of the president, we call it TOP. So I had to call TOP. I am not sure if I can deliver the documents you want because I'm being asked to move out and bring all of the staff to PMS, and you have a deadline of this evening, so I don't know which one to prioritize. And then, si Balong naman told me, finish first what is for the president. After that, move to PMS. Okay. Okay. So, yun. We got a bigger support, di ba? Kasi
You were
with PMS
PMS
already,
now.
which is a much bigger...
larger organization.
Yes, which
And
had
what-
regional offices nationwide.
Okay. So that's where your specific job
Yun.
function. Can you tell me what it was exactly?
That was when we were told nga na, I was told na, because I was not even a director then, I was just a PSO 6 supervising staff officer. I was told na, you have now the regional offices to support you. Because
You,
nga,
as in you.
as in me. Kasi parang, ako na lang naiwan na senior handling the visits, di ba? Wala na akong boss. So you have the regional offices, and you will be attending a briefing tomorrow, parang tomorrow yung kaya that day kami pinalipat, to discuss nga the brainstorming for the forthcoming presidential activities and all. And that meeting was when we, wow, the president is there, and some of the cabinet
Who was
secretaries.
informing you of this?
At that time, it was still Chito Sobrepeña.
Okay.
And he said, you have to attend this particular. I said,
So
okay.
nagto-transition pa si Chito.
Mm-mm. So I was surprised. I said, I will attend. Sir, who's attending with me? He will attend. Ah, okay. So sabi ko, okay.
Hindi ka ba nag-aalala? Solo flight ka na.
Actually, hindi, I didn't feel that way kasi the team handling the presidential visits, since we all started new di ba, nung Cory time. So, we knew we wouldn't leave each other. Yung parang, sanay ka na magkakasama kayo. So, wala kang fear na mag-isa ka.
Okay. Okay.
And, wait,
So you're getting into that first meeting.
no. The merge PMS. Wait, I'm trying to recall. Mahirap 20 years ago. So, the merge PMS CABSEC, it was still Chito Sobrepeña who was appointed the PMS head. Then shortly after, it became Lenny De Jesus. Yeah, I got the order to transfer to PMS. It was Lenny already. Tama. And then Lenny instructed me to attend the meeting. Kaya parang, okay, parang ako lang po. Yes. Sabi niya, it would still be your small group. But there will be somebody from the Office of the President to brief you. So I thought it would be Balong kasi. Pag sinabing Office of the President, that's... So, okay. So, we were there, PSG, RTVM, OPS, kami, PMS. And then, dumating naman talaga si Balong for a while. I think he opened the meeting. He said, we all know how we work together, ganyan. Appointments office was also there. Protocol was there. And then, FVR came in.
Okay.
That's when he said, it was like, this is what I want. This is how we will do it. This is no longer your usual meet and greet. I want a concept paper. I want you to tell me, give me your thoughts. How will we achieve what I want, which is to win the majority? And this is, sabi niya, I want to focus on regional development, agro-industrial development. Okay, and then after giving his marching orders, he said, I leave it to you.
Kayo na bahala. But that was pretty
quick
long,
lang talaga.
But a pretty long grocery list of things that you have
Yeah,
to...
which is, I thought parang, hindi nga siya nagstay ng 10 minutes, pero yung marching orders niya, parang, isang linggo ko yata pag-iisipan to. Come up with the framework for what he wants. And make sure that all of you are in sync with what he wants. Di ba kasi, you have to remember, some of them have been with FVR for the longest time. Some of us have been in Malacanang working together, but not necessarily aware of how FVR. So, syempre, napag-utusan dahil PMS Kami yung napag-utusan to prepare the document. Okay. Prepare the document. We will just give you our inputs. Okay, so I go back to my boss, si Sec Lenny, and I tell her, this is what the meeting is about, ganyan. And then she said, FVR attended? I said, yeah, he was the one who gave the briefing. And she was like, are you sure? So anyway, that was the beginning of the formation of that team, which we called then the Office of the President Special Operations Group.
Okay.
So that was the OPSOG. Which was also good kasi noon parang PSG would have its own concerns, OPS would have its own concerns, kami would have. But because of that, parang we had to work together kasi isa lang yung goal namin. Di ba noon kasi nung time, during Cory's time, I don't know, maybe the PSG were being overly protective. Meron kaming activities na we could then push. Kasi security risk. No, that area, we can't go there because it's ganito. So, since ito si FVR na nagsabi na it's regional development, winning the majority.
So that was crucial, ano?
I think he was confident that he could win the majority. Ano mo yun? There's a difference kasi na you go there, you're not sure about yourself. And I felt that he was sure that I may not have won by a majority, but I'm sure if they get to know me, I could win them over. That was the difference. He was so confident of himself. Yun yung maganda doon. So, madadala ka rin ng confidence niya.
Yeah. Infectious.
Oo, grabe.
He was
So, parang, okay, nothing is impossible. We can do this.
talaga. And were you confident that he had your back?
I think I was more confident later. At the start kasi you wouldn't know eh. Kasi nga, demanding siya, diba? The first time he told me na, tomorrow find a job. Kayo. Eh, I was with Yusek Isleta, Yusek Gabi Claudio, and another person. Tapos galit na galit siya. Tapos sabi niya, tomorrow, maghanap na kayo ng trabaho. I don't want to see you anymore. Naiiyak na ako. No? Parang, ha?
When was
Fired
that?
na ba
He was
ako?
fiery.
Parang, fired na ako today. Gusto ko sabihin, sir, career po ako. And then that's when, I remember it was Yusek Esleta when the president was walking away. Man siya. Okay lang yun. Nagalit lang si boss. Kailangan lang natin bumawi bukas. So parang sa akin kasi parang, hindi ako sanay, di ba?
When did that happen?
I think it was one of those visits na medyo pumalpak talaga kami. Kasalanan talaga namin. Promise.
Okay, so let me get to the visits. If I remember, Gina, it was every weekend, di ba? I
Not
think
weekend.
For the first week, for the first 6 months, it was nearly every, di ba?
It was
Thursday,
not,
Friday, and then,
we would always schedule it kasi cabinet meetings eh. After the cabinet meeting. Minsan kasi nagta-twice a week kami.
yeah,
During the first 6 months.
yes.
Twice a week kami noon. So, 8 times a month we would be out.
Oh my,
Yun ang naaalala ko. Twice a week.
that was a very taxing schedule.
Yes. Pero yun nga eh, parang lahat kami, the entire group not just our group or parang all of us were invigorated, inspired
Talaga.
by FVR.
Talaga.
And iba yung level nung, parang mahihiya ka na yung presidente, parang hindi napapagod, tapos tayo, mag-aamin tayo na napapagod tayo, hindi pa rin ganun.
Oo.
So, ang schedule nga namin nun was, today mag-ocular kami, babalik kami in the afternoon,
Okay.
make sure you have the program, draft the program, that same evening, you had to send it to appointments, to the top, and then, the following day, nag-a-advance ka na to the next activity, which kasi you have to be in the activity venue 3 minus 3 at least eh. So parang ganun lang kami. Ocular, advance, actual. Ocular, advance, actual. Parang minsan gigising ka, nasaang probinsya na nga ba tayo? Ganun.
Tell me what FBR was like during these early assemblies. I mean, coming out, you tell me he's real stiff and
So parang
square
the
jawed
first
and all.
6 months, hindi pa siya ganun ka-comfortable yung madalas siya mag-joke or anything. Ano pa rin siya, parang meron siyang, we had to have a theme for each visit eh.
Okay.
So, he would more or less, you have to tell me ano ang good morning doon or good afternoon in the local dialect, ganyan. Tapos, maximum exposure na when I go down sa airport, I want to meet ganito before I go to the formal program. So, meron ng mga informal meetings, yung talagang maximizing his time. And at that time, you could see na yung the crowd wasn't that warm pa sa kanya. Kasi nga, parang siya rin naman, parang hindi pa siya ganun ka-loose eh. Parang formal pa rin siya eh. So, parang nag-evolve yun eh. Unti-unti. Hindi siya immediate na
Yeah.
he could joke as often as he wants or yung
He could joke and people would get the tagline.
oo, yung ganon. Yung parang hindi pa nila mag-get si FVR.
When did that happen?
I think
When
it
did
was...
he eventually, marunong na siyang mag-deliver?
I think we saw the concrete na talagang nag-evolve na si FVR in the first SONA. Doon lang namin talaga nag-grasp na ay, comfortable na talaga si FVR. Kasi minsan comfortable. Yun nga eh, merong areas na he feels comfortable with certain groups. You could see the...
Teka, first SONA, 92 yun.
Before that kasi yung...
So just a few weeks into his administration?
Medyo, okay. Okay, pero nagiging comfortable na siya. Kasi before that, yung parang, stiff naman. Kahit kami, takot kami sa kanya. Tapos first SONA, medyo naglo-loosen up na siya. Hindi na siya yung nakatingin sa...
Yeah, the prompter.
Oo. Pwede na siya yung ganyan, direct eye contact, yung comfortable na siya.
How did you get that across to him? Well, or was that something you wanted to get across to him? And
I think...
Sir, you're too stiff. You gotta loosen up.
If I remember right, it was Yusek Isleta's problem. Yun yung loko namin eh. Sasabihin namin. Because nung initial months, Yusek Claudio being the political affairs undersecretary, di ba? He made sure he was in every visit kasi parang to introduce. So, after each visit nun, we would have an assessment. Kasi, hindi pa siya ganun ka-organized ba yung, okay, the president had a meeting, he committed that we will provide this assistance, ganyan. So, minsan, may kasama si President. Minsan, one-on-one lang, di ba? So, pag may kasama siya, we would get all of the commitments and then we had to make sure na there were written directives to the agencies that were concerned, di ba? So, that was how we worked. Parang, minsan, okay, we can document. Minsan, walang documentation. Tapos, yung governor ang pupunta sa amin na mga weeks after. Sabi ni Presidente, DOH magpapadala ng ganito. Oh my. Wala kasing taong kasama si President. One-on-one kasi sila, di ba? So, we had to work closely, political affairs, kami, the top, ganyan. Kasi di ba, ako, okay, dahil regional concerns kami, our people will be in the province, so madaling makontak ng LGU about it, di ba? So ako naman, I could not go straight to my boss and say, pinramis ni FVR, di ba? Who am I to say pinramis ni FVR? Eh, wala rin ako doon, di ba? So, what we would normally do is I would course it through Yusek Claudio if it's more of political whatever. Or if it's a formal, na during the program, nagbulungan sila, na nakita mo namang nagbulungan sila on stage. That one, I will call the top kay Balong to ask kung kasi may sinabi si Gov na pinramis commitment for ganyan.
Ano talaga yung sinabi?
Oo, yung, di ba? Just to validate. And then we would come out with presidential directives. After a time kasi, yun din, we also found out na meron ding handwritten, ang tawag pa namin nun, HWI ni Presidente o HWN, depending on
Handwritten
notes or handwritten instructions. Minsan kasi si FVR mismo, dun sa program, may sinulat siya dun.
In red.
Red, green, black, di ba? Blue. Depende on. So, minsan yon ibabalik sa amin ng aide-camp. May sinulat si boss. Gawan yun ng document. Or minsan, a week after, lalabas yung scenario, yung tawag namin na tickler na maliit na ganun. Nagdun siya nag-note. So, we had to come up with a system na yun kasi ang hirap ng magtatanong bigla sa amin yung top, may nagawa na ba kayo on this commitment of FVR? Na, ha? Hindi namin alam yun. Paano? So we agreed na there should be parang a directives monitoring system. Yun, in place.
And that was actually the challenge, because I mean, he wasn't like Cory na meet and greet. He was engaged, di ba?
And he also wanted to make sure that he delivered.
Yeah, there you are.
Actually, I think it was end of the year when you had to the first December 31, the first week of January, we had to provide a matrix of all of his commitments, who are the agencies involved, what is the status, who has acted, what remains to be acted upon. Buti na lang ginawa natin yung kasi if he
Yun yung
hadn't prepared.
monitoring.
Because he
Otherwise-
wanted to monitor also. So, ganun siya ka-organized. And,
OC.
oo, parang he expected na everybody knew what he wanted. So, buti na lang.
I guess that's also a skill that many of you who were working very close to him had to learn, ano? You had to be able to read, I mean, movement, look, diba? A note or...
Yung placement pa lang nung cigar, pang hindi ka marunong mag-read, patay ka dyan. Yung mga ganon, yung alam mo na yun. Galit si boss. Behave tayong lahat. Make sure walang magkakamali. Yung ganon. Or sometimes there's a program and he would just raise his eyebrow and lumapit ka dito kasi meron siyang gustong. And sometimes, ang sharp, minsan nga nagtataka kami, mas sharp pa yung eye niya kaysa sa amin. The program would have started. Before that, nag-commit talaga si Congressman, darating siya. Hindi siya dumating. So, magbabawas ka ng silya sa stage, di ba? Tapos makikita ko na lang bigla, umaganon na siya. Nakita niya parating si Congressman. Parang, ha? Ando ka sa stage, sir? Paano mo nakita yan? Parang ang bilis-bilis mo naman. And he would always tell us, environmental scanning. You don't just stand there. When you stand there, you're also scanning the environment.
Right.
But you don't have to look like a dog that goes. Ayun. Tapos yan, marami ako natutunan sa kanya. Yan, environmental scanning. Passion for anonymity.
What do you mean?
Okay. Kasi nga, di ba, at the start, parang natataranta kami pag sumenyas na siya. Wala kami pakialam kahit program. Pupunta kami sa likod niya. Yeah, passion for anonymity, ibig sabihin, hindi kayo dapat nakikita sa picture. Hindi kayo dapat nakikita sa camera. Staff kayo support staff kayo Nandun kayo sa likod. But, you should also be able to help me kung may kailangan ako.
Yeah.
So, yun nga, kunyari may instruction siya, matuto ka na. Pag hindi kayo talaga magkakaintindihan ng aide-de-camp, minsan din, matututo kayo. Buti lang, maliit ako, di ba? Magka-crouch kang ganyan, parang hindi ka nakakasira nung... Tapos kukunin mo yung slip of paper or bubulong sa'yo ng aide-de-camp. Yun. Passion for anonymity, environmental scanning, tapos yung, ano yun? React. Hindi. May umpisa muna yun, tapos react. Basta parang, know the situation, parang familiarize with the situation. While you're familiarizing with the situation, your mind is already turning to address what is happening, and then react. Parang ganon. Parang, isip ka kagad. Ito yung nangyayari. Anong mga options ko?
Yeah.
Among these options, ano yung pwede kong gawin? Ganun lagi. Kasi sabi niya, tayo kasi mobile tayo Hindi naman tayo yung naka-meeting lang tayo, nakaupo tayo, di ba?
Yeah.
Kung mabagal tayong mag-react, may nasayang na tayong oras, may na-miss tayong opportunity, or meron tayong hindi natulungan, or meron tayong, basta ganun, basta sabi niya parang, assess, tapos analyze, implement. Yung parang ganun. So, okay.
military mindset din.
Mm-mm.
But also very managerial. Diba?
Yun nga, sabi ko nga natatawa kami noon kasi pag nabigay ka ng schedule sa kanya, kasi nga parang minamaximize yung day niya, di ba? Para hindi naman kami yung pag nagbiyahe kami, isang province lang or isang municipality lang. So, pag nag-present ka ng itinerary, kailangan may flying time, may aircraft, ganyan. Nado-drawing. Nung umpisa, may drawing pa ako noon. Aeroplano, aircraft, landing dito, pagdating dito, lipat sa helicopter. Tapos, okay po. Sa ganun siya ka-detail, di ba? Tapos, saan mo nakuha tong flying time na to? Sure, binigay po ng presidential airlifting. Ask them to check it again. That's wrong. Fixed wing, F-27, ganyan yan. Ilang minutes yan. So, sabihin, sir, hindi naman ako piloto. Hindi ko rin naman in-invent yung flying time. Ba't ang galing-galing mo? Mas alam mo pa. So, ganun. So, talagang siya, he also, alam niya what he wants. Hindi mo siya pwedeng isahan na mabobola mo siya na, di ba, yung iba pwede ka mag-widow.
Yeah.
Lulusot ka, di ba? Kay sir, wag mo gagawin yun unless alam mo talaga lahat at kaya mong lumusot. Kasi, parang naisip na niya kasi yun.
But my observation as well is that, bear me out on that, ano? So, I guess he understood what it meant, but any other person would have gone along with it. But FBR, being the person that he is, wanted it set out right, and he wanted to see to it that the people doing it knew how to do it right.
Yes. Ano naman siya he was not just a boss, he would also mentor you. So, kung hindi ka lang kasi sanay, matatakot ka talaga. Pero yun nga, marami kang mapupulot na lessons sa kanya. And he would take time out to explain it to you naman.
Talaga?
Yun lang. Kaya sabi ko, si boss nagtuturo.
With matching drawing.
With matching drawing. Yun lang nga lang. Ako noon binabantayan ko anong ballpen ba ilalabas niya sa akin ngayon. Kasi even there was a time kasi he said, wag na magsama ng protocol. Kasi parang, he didn't want to impose on the host provinces. Yun yung number 1 rule niya. Hindi kayo tatanggap ng kahit na food or you have your allowances. So, stay in classrooms, stay in whatever is available, whatever your budget can afford.
I remember that.
So, since walang protocol, kami yung gagawa nung persons to be addressed. Yung tawag namin PTBA, di ba?
Okay.
Nung first time ko gumawa ng PTBA, pinagawa ko dun sa tao ko, di ba? Kasi ang explanation lang sa amin ng protocol, syempre yung nationally elected, yung local, yung ganyan, yun yung sequencing. Pag-abot namin kay naglabas kagad ng red. Sabi ko, sobrang mali ng PTBA natin kasi red ballpen ang nilabas sa atin. Tapos may arrow-arrow siyang ganyan. Okay, mali. The second program, take off pa lang sa helicopter, sabi nung AD camp, hinihingi ni boss yung PTBA dun sa next program. So, pinabot namin sa AD camp. Green na yung ballpen. Pero may correction pa rin.
Pero natuto kayo kagad.
Natuto kami kagad, di ba? Meron palang mga kulang na sinabi si protocol sa amin. Hindi naman niya sinabi na, kapag ka-close ni boss yun, dapat by first name, susulat nyo yung first name. Kunyari, Congressman Ed Salsita, hindi Congressman Salsita lang. Ganun. Or pag yung, basta meron siyang mga dinadagdag pa.
But you also had to study his, I guess, part of the job was learning his character, his quirks,
his parang minimum requirements. And at that time, sabi pa nga namin, sino kaya ang mas techy? Si FVR o si Balong? Kasi natatawa pa siya sa amin noon kasi wala namang cellphones noon, di ba?
Wala pa, yeah.
Ang meron was the fax machine na napakabagal. Hindi pa yung fax ngayon, di ba? Tapos how we would send the programs was, may siniset up pa noon na, sabi, Diyos ko naman to si PMS, napaka-behind. So,
Talaga.
oo, napagalitan kami. You are so behind. Ang tagal-tagal yung magpadala ng program, ganyan. Kasi kailangan papadala namin, tapos mag-corrections pa siya. Tapos tsaka pa lang namin pwede i-finalize. So, minsan sa sobrang tagal, instead of sending it, say, 5 o'clock, darating sa Manila, mga 8 o'clock na or 9. Ganun katagal. So, natawa pa ako. Proud na proud pa yung TOP noon. At that time, naalala ko may beeper ka. Diba? Beeper pa noon. Tapos, kami noon, may radyo kami. Pero yung radyo namin, hindi kasing high-tech ng PSG. Yung radyo namin, pag pinukpok ko sa'yo, patay ka. Kasi ganyan kahaba yung radyo. So, may beeper ka dito, may nakasuksok ang radyo dito. Diba? Tapos, bibigyan ka pa ng PSG ng yung radyo na, pero nasa isang channel lang, para kayong dalawa lang nung stag ang nag-uusap. So, diba? Laki-laki ko kasi, diba? Tapos lahat yun nakasukbit sa'yo, diba? Tapos pagbalik namin sa Manila, after nga napansin daw na sobrang tagal namin, pinatawag ako sa top, tapos sabi ni Balong, merong gift si boss sa'yo. Ano? Binigyan ako ng kahon na ganyan. Parang plancha ba? Kasi bigat din ng plancha. Ayan ha, micro whatever na phone. Anong gagawin ko dyan? Para mabilis yung contact. Para hindi mo kami sinasagot na hindi kayo makakontak kasi ganun. Opo, pero ang bigat-bigat niyan eh. Para naman ako may dalang plancha. Dami ko na nga gadget eh. Hindi, dali niya yan. Okay. Sige, okay. Tapos, next thing, kailangan at the stage, meron na kami nakaset up na computer at printer. Anywhere we go.
Wow.
Kasi nga, if he issues a directive, gusto niya, pipirmahan niya. May mga directives na gusto niya siya ang pipirma. May iba naman na, basta ilabas yung directive na yan.
Yeah, I remember he would take advantage of those opportunities and
Diba?
and, yeah, he would end the speech with, and just as I told you earlier,
Diba?
tapos saka iaabot kay Go.
Diba? Talagang gaganyan pa niya. Pipirma ko pa lang. Basa pa yung tinta ng ballpen ko. Diba? So, parang nag-evolve siya talaga. At saka, hindi siya yung blind commitment. Talagang, pag merong hindi gumagalaw sa mga directives niya, pinapaka-calendar na yun sa cabinet clusters.
Explain
That
why.
was how the regional cabinet meetings came about.
Oh.
Because I just can't remember the exact when he said parang the directives were no longer moving. Parang wala nang gumagalaw doon sa mga commitments niya. So sabi niya,
From Manila, from the palace.
so sabi niya, regional cabinet meetings tayo. At first pa siya, ano yung regional cabinet meetings? We would have 4 teams of cabinet members. Iba-ibang route ang kukunin nila. And we would all converge in one place and doon gagawin yung cabinet meeting. Sabi ko, Diyos ko, pinapatay naman ako ni boss. 4 na team ng cabinet secretary. Iniisip ba niya marami akong tao?
Tama, different clusters.
At saka kasi, when we do the clustering, wala naman na akong PSG, wala naman akong OPS, wala akong protocol. That's just PMS kasi
Right.
cabinet clusters, di ba? And then, ayun ang gusto niya eh. Tapos nung una, hindi ko pa maisip yun. And then, before we go to the regional cabinet meetings, the birth of Marilake, the Allowance Council for Sustainable Development, yung mga ganyan. So, yung first round namin of presidential visits, when we came back, parang nagpatawag siya ng meeting. I think it was just PMS, certain cabinet secretaries. I remember, andun si Agriculture, andun si Environment,
NEDA?
and not even NEDA eh.
Talaga.
Basta, it was just a small group talaga. And he said, we can't have parang dispersed growth. Kasi
Okay.
parang our focus would be too diverse. Parang we have to think of these areas in clusters and how they complement each other.
Okay.
Parang yung cabinet secretaries pa niya, hindi makuha. Ako naisip ko na sabi ko, parang alam ko na yung tinutumbok ni boss. Kasi pag nagsasabi siya ng visit, sasabihin niya, hindi pwedeng ito lang yung pupuntahan. Kasi cluster na yan eh. So, maximize natin. Pagpunta dito, punta tayo dito. Naku, pati ba naman regional growth and development, ganun din yung approach niya, clustering pa rin.
Right.
Pero, when he explained it, and to his credit, siya rin lang nakaisip ano ang Marilaki. Siya yun.
Manila, Rizal, Laguna,
Quezon.
Yeah.
Siya yun.
Oh, he coined
Siya
the acronym.
And he was the one na, at that meeting, may malaking map. Tapos siya yun. Ito, growth center. Ito. Okay. Gets. And then the cabinet secretaries were all going like that. Tapos kami, kasi secretariat, taking note, ito ang sabi ni boss. Tapos sabi niya parang, this area, if we don't do something, council for development, whatever, but there has to be a group kasi masyadong iba-iba ang development dyan eh. If we don't have a council doing the macro visioning for the province, hindi yan uunlad. Kasi, okay. So, I want to study on the rice terraces. Ganun. So, parang
Micro.
iniisip ko nga, oh my gosh, this president, lahat na, paano niya naiisip lahat yun? Parang, di ba? Saka may vision na siya, di ba, for development. It
But I
was,
think that was important. Everybody knew what the vision was.
And
so
we-
that
always had the feeling na the cabinet secretaries are pressured na dapat may bago naman kaming maisip, hindi naman si boss na lang ang laging nag-iisip. Yan.
so he actually diba,
Parang
spurred
spurred.
the creativity, innovation.
At ayun pala, yung simplicity, he also gave that same instructions to his cabinet secretaries. I strongly remember cabinet meetings in the palace. Natatawa kami kasi yung cabinet secretaries kanya-kanyang baon. Kasi nga, ang isi-serve lang is coffee and yeah, that's it. During cabinet meetings yata, coffee lang. So,
Biscuits or pandesal.
if it's a morning meeting, may pandesal. But it's outside. When the cabinet meeting starts, wala nang pagkain. So, matatawa ka, like, si Del Lazaros, the Secretary of Energy, ang baon niya was saging na saba na nilaga. Naaalala ko yun kasi laging yung seatmate niya hihingi sa kanya, so he would always be bringing extra.
He will share.
Si Secretary Escudero, yun ang tawag sa kanila was cool cats.
Cool cat.
Secretary Escudero, Secretary Vigilar, cool cats daw sila. Mga kulang sa sukat. Cool cats. Yun, si Secretary Escudero naman, ang lagi niyang dala. Ay, hindi, si Secretary Vigilar ang may baon ng Skyflakes dahil ex-military, di ba? Si Secretary Escudero, laging humihingi kay Secretary Vigilar. Ganon yung cabinet niya, yung parang alam na nila na very plain, very simple, so you make provisions for yourselves.
He was very thrifty then, ano?
I think it's not just thrifty, but he didn't want the frills. He wanted you to focus. Kasi naiinis siya na, kunyari nagka-cabinet meeting, tas may waiter, magpapasok ng pinggan. Parang it deviates or diverts the attention. And he wants you to focus on the discussions. Diba? Which was also something that was difficult for the regional cabinet meetings. Kasi he didn't want that distraction while the meeting is ongoing. And you have to remember, dun sa regional cabinet meetings, it wasn't just the cabinet secretaries, but local officials who would be there. And these local officials naman, syempre hindi naman sila as prepared as the cabinet secretaries na we wouldn't be serving food. So at the onset, parang meron kami noon na governor na sabi niya, malapit na akong himatayin. wini-wish na raw niya na matapos yung cabinet meeting kasi hilong-hilo na siya sa gutom. Can you imagine, from the airport,
Yeah.
my program, bago pa pumunta sa cabinet meeting, kasi hindi kami pwede mag-serve ng pagkain while the meeting is ongoing. So talagang
Yes.
pagod, di ba?
That was also very taxing, I guess, because tulad nun, ano, regional cabinet meeting, he would require cabinet officials to go
Ahead.
separately ahead,
Yes.
and but
2 or 1 day
uh,
to...
but coordination, and then just really, I mean, the logistics alone is already mind-boggling. But I mean, putting in all that content, Gina, and you had to do it 3 or 4 days again down the road. Diba?
Tapos, ano yun, the good thing about that was, parang the entire government at that time, they knew na we had to be simple and we had to work together. So, government agencies like DPWH, yung may mga provincial and regional offices, alam na nila yun. Pag sinabing regional cabinet meeting, sasabihin na nila, oh, we have 5 ganitong vehicles. So, yun na yung vehicles ng cabinet secretary. We would pull those assets. I remember kasi the administration after that, may problema na ako about pulling. Pero during FVR's time, it wasn't a problem. It was actually the local offices who were giving us, parang, this is the list of assets that we have that you can use. Kasi naman, they could see that these people from Malacanang, we sleep in classrooms. Natutulog kami kahit yung stage. Alam mo yung mga stage ng mga public school na open, walang bubong. Masaya pa kami kung sa stage ka nakahiga, di ba? Malas mo na lang kung doon ka sa baba. There was a time, after the calamity, malakas na bagyo, and then he told us we had to send a team. I had to sleep together with the protocol officer sa morgue.
Oh my.
Tapos nagpipilitan pa kami kung sinong hihiga doon sa lamesa. Kasi ayaw ko nga humiga dyan. Uupo na lang ako. Yung gano'n. But never complained. Nobody complained. There was one cabinet team, they had to spend the night in Tawi-Tawi. And the convergence was in Zamboanga. And where they stayed in Tawi-Tawi, yung kumbaga shower nila, kailangan may nagpa-pump sa labas habang may naliligo dun sa loob. So tawa kami ng tawa kasi cabinet secretaries yun ha. Naliligo yung isa. Natawa pa kami kasi si Secretary Francisco Viray yung inabutan naming nagpa-pump nung at ang naliligo sa labas, sa loob. Somebody so big. Kaya nagre-reklamo na si Secretary Viray, lugi ako nito kasi ang laki-laki nung kailangan mong sabunan at anlawan. Sabi ko dun sa staff ko, ikaw na mag-pump. Nakakaawa na si Secretary Viray, pawis na siya. So, ganon talaga. And, talagang the cabinet secretaries took it seriously kasi at the end of each day, talagang magmi-meeting sila as that group. And they would prepare their report kasi at the cabinet meeting the following day, you have to report ano yung based on the itinerary na binigay sa inyo at yung issues na pina-focus sa inyo at whatever you saw along the way, the environmental scanning, it applied to them. You have to report to the cabinet. So para silang
forced to work.
correct. So, very substantive talaga.
Always.
Oo.
Always. How do you balance that against, I mean, okay if it's a safe zone, okay, you know, there are no security challenges, but what, I mean, diba? There were a lot of, Mindanao in particular, Region 8, somewhere Leyte, where the NPA, diba, would take pot shots at your helicopter.
Actually, there was one time where the presidential advisor for that particular area, I won't say what area kasi alam nyo na kagad kung sino yun. During the ocular inspection, our aircraft was really shot at. Kasi, makikita mo naman pag binaril ka kasi may makikita kang fire na ganyan, di ba? So, while reporting the itinerary, I cited na at this particular area, we were flying in a helicopter and the helicopter was shot at, but unfortunately, hindi naman umabot eh. But there was, and that presidential advisor said I was overreacting daw in life. So, the FVR immediately called his aide, tawagin to call yung stag officer who was with us.
Stag, meaning?
Special tactical something. That's the head of the PSG who would. So, tinawag. Tapos, confirmed nga. Kasi, why would I say naman na babarinig kami kung hindi naman? So, FVR goes, wag natin pilitin kung hindi pwede. Idea, but let's find another way to get there.
Oo nga naman.
Diba? So, we will go there, but that is not the way that we will go there. So, let's look for another route
another
to get there.
path, yeah.
But let's not counter each other.
He didn't like that, ano?
Hindi like that. Ayaw niya yung parang kayo-kayo, tas you would be. Parang mas gusto niya mag-usap kayo. Pero wag kayo magtatalo sa harap ko. Parang dapat pagdating sa akin, mayroon na kayong solution. I don't want you contradicting each other.
And more so if it came out in public. He did not like that, ano? People
So,
in
he
his
was-
cabinet arguing in public.
Yan. Ang lagi ko namang problema would be yung mga CASAF eh. Yung mga Air Force heads in the region. As you said nga, my main problem was Zamboanga. Kasi I couldn't help it. Ang gusto ni President was Basulta, di ba? Basilan, Sulon, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, converge in Zamboanga, cabinet meeting in Zamboanga. So I really had to organize teams. The CASA would say, no, we cannot send helicopters there because it's too dangerous in ganyan. Okay, do not explain to me. Explain to the President. Basta hindi kami bibigyan ng helicopter. So what do? You call the Secretary of National Defense, di ba? Sir, alam niyo naman, may regional cabinet meeting, ganyan. So parang, to si Presidente, hindi nga natatakot, tapos kayo takot. And ang hilig niya sa ganyan, yung isusurprise niya kami. Like, there was one time in the Visayas, sinabihan na kami na we couldn't take the boat to cross to the bridge project, which was being implemented by the engineering brigade.
Yes.
So, the most that we could do was land here. Tapos, makikita mo naman across that there is work ongoing. Ang ginawa ni Sir, sumakay ng rubber boat. Pag landing namin, may nakita siyang rubber boat. Dumiretso siya doon. Siya sumakay. Lahat kami, wala na kaming magawa.
Yeah.
Ganun.
I think I remember that.
Yeah, remember? In the Visayas. That was in the Visayas.
Yes.
Now, we were just supposed to view the construction from the other side.
afar.
And he took the rubber boat and crossed.
To inspect it personally, up
Yes.
close.
Yes.
How did you deal with that? I mean, that exacerbated already the long list of problems when you plan for these things. When suddenly FBR, who has a penchant to deviate, from
Ayun nga eh. Kaya nga ang sabi nga niya is, there is this situation, you analyze what are the options, and you act. Because you don't have time to, boss, may I clear with you? You have to act. Decide.
What about when siya mismo yung problema?
Wala kang magagawa eh.
Diretso dito and then start shaking hands with and
Wala
then
kang
starts
magagawa.
receiving all these folders.
I know. Wala. We just have to be, sabi nga namin with FVR, kasi with Cory, we had 2 months before, you had to have the program, you have to have to. With FVR, may program ka na, in-approve na ni FVR yun. May sign na niya na approve. But that's never the program until the day is over.
Yeah, yeah. You have
Di
to
ba?
you have to reconstruct it.
Di ba? There's no such thing as a fixed program with
Mhm.
FVR. So you have to be prepared to always react.
Mhm. Adapt to the situation. Uh, yeah, you mentioned the no, you mentioned the colored pens. Can you recall the codes? Red,
Basta
blue,
red,
green.
blue, green. Basta yung red, alam namin pag galit siya.
Mhm. Needs
Green,
attention, di ba?
yun yung ibig sabihin. Follow.
Mhm.
The blue was, that means, okay, everything is going great.
Mhm.
The green, for me the green was always, matuto ka from what I'm teaching you. Because that was how he would usually correct me. Yung parang, okay, you got it half right and half wrong. Depends on how you look at it, diba? Ako, I would always look at it as, I got it half right. So, yon. So,
Positive.
kasi pag inisip ko kagad na wrong, ang dami kong wrong. Diba? So, you get it half right. So, yan.
Just out of curiosity. How many reds were there?
I said nga, you know, I kept some of his notes to me. And there was one na, reading it now, natatawa ako because he said, adjust this, do not make me stand up, sit down, stand up like a yo-yo in red. Alam ko, galit
So,
siya
must yun.
noon. Oo. Tapos meron din siyang note noon na, you know how since we would be traveling now with a group of cabinet secretaries, minsan tight talaga ang landing spaces, di ba? So may drawing siya ng oval. May drawing siya ng helicopter. Tapos, may parang measurement kung dapat daw i-measure yung distance between the helicopters and do not endanger me or any of my cabinet secretary, even you. Pero yung may question mark. Di ba parang, okay, may humor talaga si sir.
Ano pa rin, ano? And then, well, actually, that's also the engineer in him, ano? I mean, pretty much exact.
Yeah.
Oh.
Basta, madami kang matututunan kay sir.
Did you eventually develop a formula? You were saying at first, medyo, di ba, may trips and falls, but when did you get it? You know, when did you slip into the groove?
I can't say the exact but siguro nung nabibilang na lang namin yung napapagalitan kami. Parang by the time you read his body language or and the people around him have been able to communicate hindi na kami nag-uusap noon eh. Kunyari, nagkatinginan kami ni RTVM, alam na namin na, oops, yung podium hindi maayos, yung presidential seal, ayusin natin. Yung ganon, yung tinginan lang, or yung OPS, alam na nila na medyo nagtatransgress na yung media doon sa area ng mga local executive seating kasi hindi mo na nga sila inakyat sa stage, so kailangan protected. Yung ganon, yung tinginan na lang, alam nyo na, you were working together as a team. And si FVR also was not tense anymore and he could enjoy the activities.
And he was smiling more.
Yes, and he was making all of those jokes.
Ganun ba yun? Was making jokes an indicator that things were going well?
Yeah, for him. Yeah. So, by that time, okay na kami. Pero, yun nga, when he started the regional cabinet meetings, bago na naman to, di ba? Parang,
Yeah.
and he was so impatient kasi nga gusto niya may iba na directives na pipirmahan niyang ganyan. Minsan nag-encode pa lang kami nung directive. Andiyan na siya sa likod. Siyempre, kung ako, hindi ako masyadong matitense kung ako yung nag-encode, di ba? Pero kunyari, may inaasikaso ako, so yung staff ang nag-encode. Tapos makikita nila si President, parang,
Matataranta yun.
lalo tuloy tumatagal. Tapos maiinip siya. So parang natatawa ako. So mag-uusap na kami. Titingin na ako dun sa IDCAP. Hindi makagtrabaho yung tao kasi na conscious kay sir.
Yeah, but you know, eventually, I guess You already.
Yes.
You
After
got-
that, it
you
became
gelled, you got
clockwork.
the moves.
Even the cabinet secretaries, after siguro the 15th or the 16th regional cabinet meeting, they knew already na hindi pag sinabi sa inyong overnight to, magdadala kayo ng damit na isang araw lang, di ba? Kasi anything can happen. Kasi minsan,
right.
after the cabinet meeting, sasabihin ni Sir, since hindi naayos to, maiwan ka muna. Ganun.
Yeah.
Wala ka ng choice,
Oh,
di ba?
diba? Thank you very much for your time.